What I want to show you how to do now is a proper die line.
I want to show you the way that I've done it at my agency. So here are the shape of my invitation. So these two items are the flaps that will wrap around to the front or back, depending on which side you're looking at. And then I'm just going to fold here and this flap will come up. So what I want to do is, I know I'm going to need this later, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to paste in place. You can see it there. And then I'm just going to lock it and then hide it. Okay, so let's go back to the die line. I'm going to grab these three boxes. I'm going to go to Pathfinder and say Unite. Now you can see this didn't unite. So what I need to do is ungroup it and just nudge it over slightly. What it means is it wasn't touching, and it needs to be touching. So now I can unite. Send it to the back so you can see this window here. So now I'm going to grab all of these, and a die line is usually always magenta or red. So I'm going to change this to magenta. I'm going to say copy. Then I'm going to lock my die line, make a new layer, and I'm going to say safe zone, safe zone. And I'm going to say paste in place. Now, what the safe zone is it's kind of a guide to let you know do not go beyond the blue area when you're putting your copy and content inside the die line. So I'm going to go to Object, Path, Offset Path. I am going to do minus 0.25, which is a 1/4 inch. Minus means smaller. I'm going to hit preview and you can see it goes in a lot smaller and say okay. Now, safe zone should be cyan. I have seen it green, but that's been really, really rare. It's usually cyan. So now I'm going to lock that layer. I'm going to go to the next layer and I'm going to call this bleed. And once again, I'm going to say paste in place. This time we need to go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and we want 0.125. So bleed is typical in the industry at 1/8 of an inch, which is equal to 0.125. Say okay. And then I can take it and make that black. I don't need the magenta, so I'm going to throw that one away. I'm going to lock that. Unlock the safe zone, hide this one. This is the die line, and I don't need a safe zone inside the die line. Okay, so what I do need though is this outside the die line. So I'm going to grab this, go to Object, Path, Offset Path. This time though, I need to go the other way, so 0.25, say Preview, say OK, and then I'm going to change this to cyan to match. I don't need this one. Like that. Okay, so now if I unlock all of these, grab everything, and get rid of the fill, you can see I have my die line. But we're not done yet, so let's keep going. What I now need is where the folds are going to be. So I'm going to lock all these layers, make another new layer, and I'm going to call this fold. Where I want my fold to go is right across here a little bit where it's going to be cut. So this is the die line. I'm going to put my fold here. I'm going to pick a gray color for my fold. And then I want to make sure it's lined up right on the die line. Okay. I also want to put folds here. So to line those up, what I'm going to do is grab my rulers, pull them out, line them up on my die line. Like so. I'm going to make a line from my bleed all the way down to the die line here. Make that gray as well. I need one on the other side, so I'm going to grab this, duplicate it, and drag it over here. Alright, so now there are my folds. I want to decide, instead of just a fold, maybe I'll do a perf. So I'm going to show you what a perf looks like. So it will fold, but they can also tear it off if they want to keep it for something. So I'm going to copy this and remove it. I'm going to lock my fold. I'm going to click on perf, make a layer curve. I'm going to paste this in place. Since it's a curve, that means it's going to cut. If it's going to cut, then it needs to be in magenta to match the die line. And then I'm going to add dashes. So this is typically what it would look like if it was going to be perforated. You don't need to worry about the length of these dashes. They have dies that are set certain widths, and we'll talk to you about that in more detail. So this is what we have so far. Now what I want to do is I want to hide all these. I'm going to go to this layer, and I'm going to call this my mask. I'll show you why. I'm going to grab this one, whoops, grab this one, overlap them, and I'm going to go to Pathfinder and say Unite. Now I can show my artwork. And in my artwork, I can grab both of these items, go to Object, Flipping Mask Make, or Command 7, and voila. And why this is important is so that the artwork stops right here on the fold. But as you can see, it stops at the die line. This would be incorrect. I need it to stop at the bleed, right? So let's go to Object, Flipping Mask Release. I'm going to throw this one away. However, I am going to grab my bleed. I'm going to grab this one, copy, I'm going to lock it, I'm going to hide everything else. Go to my mask layer. So I'm going to go up to Edit, Paste in Place. Then what I want to do is I want to drag this up so it's in one straight line. I can zoom in just to make doggone sure it's up just a smidge. There we go. So now once I have this, I can select both of these, Object, Flipping Mask Make, and voila. So now if I bring these all up, the artwork leads to the die line, but it's not where the fold is, right? I need to grab this line, and I need to drag it up to the red dash line so that you can see I still have bleed where I need it, but the artwork stops exactly where the fold and the perforation is going to go, which is important. So I'm going to unlock all these because this is one side. So now we need to do the other side. So let's go to Artboards. I'm going to make a second artboard. I'm going to grab all of these items. I'm going to drag them over here. And then what I'm going to say is I'm going to go to my Reflect tool and I'm going to flip it. So I don't need this anymore. I don't need the mask. Put that back. Lock all these layers so I don't throw away the wrong layer. Okay. So now I have the mask only over here. So this would be like the inside. So now I can put my text in here. What you need to remember though is you need to stay within the blue guides. And since this is where the fold is, you're going to want to stay within the fold too. And you can drag out your guides to make sure you're within a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch, depending on what you need to do. So this is basically how you do the artwork for it, right? So now what I want to do is I want to make a legend. Legends are pretty important. Even though we have everything properly labeled here, it's also really important to put a legend together just to kind of protect yourself. So I'm going to label these. Read, safe zone, which is basically for you, and die line. So let me make this much bigger and bolder. It's a title. And then what I like to do is put a little bit more detail in it still. So my die line should be magenta. So I'm going to take my eyedropper and do that. My safe zone, right, that should be cyan. My bleed is black, my fold is gray. And my perf should also be magenta dash lines. So there you have it. This is a proper way of executing a die line to go to press. Thank you for watching.